We're built up as these strong individuals, which we are, but that doesn't allow us to just pause and always set those boundaries so that we can take care of ourselves, because we've come to this belief that we have to just power through. We have to be strong, that taking a day to go do something for myself, go for a hike, something like that that helps me care for myself and get recentered is selfish. We've learned that as women, we need to just keep pushing forward, trying to keep our emotions in check, versus allowing ourselves to navigate those emotions, to feel those emotions, so we can move forward and experience joy again. So we keep pushing them down, and it's like that tea kettle with a cork in it. A tea kettle with a cork in it eventually is going to explode because it can't allow any pressure out. And I used to believe that grief was just related to death, but it's not. Grief is related to any change or transition in our life that feels uncomfortable. I realized I'd experienced an immense amount of grief, and it started in childhood. All of that just accumulated, and I realized why my life didn't feel as joyful as I had hoped for. It was because I'd had all this pain that I'd been carrying for years, and I hadn't known how to heal it. Remember, regardless of what's going around you, you are whole, and that this chapter of your life is not the whole story. We see something that happens in our life and we think that that is the whole book, and it's not. It's a chapter, and we haven't seen the rest of our story yet.
Hey everyone, it's Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. A quick message before we dive into today's conversation. You may have been watching the podcast videos, but have not had a chance to hit that subscribe button. So if you have ever gained value from our videos, from our conversations, it would mean so much to us if you would hit that subscribe button below right now, or even just give us a like. And what that means is not only does it allow us to grow our subscriber base, but it allows us to bring in more important guests for you to listen to, and you will be one of the first ones to be notified. So please hit that subscribe button, and let's get started on today's conversation. Welcome to the Pathways to Wellbeing podcast. My name is Sophia from Sacred You, and with me today, I'm really excited. On this episode is the beautiful Dawn Jackson. Dawn, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you, Sophia. I'm honored to be here today and speak with you and your listeners.
Great. And I'm really excited because we're talking on a topic that is so essential in the world. Truly for everyone, but especially for women. And that's like emotional first aid, because I talk to so many women, including myself, like we have an addiction, I'm going to say, of overcommitting ourselves, that we can do everything. So I want to talk to you more about that. That's why I'm really excited, because you have a lot of experience. You've blended 3 decades of nursing. And I'd just like to honor you for that, for all the help and care that you've given to all your patients, because nursing is such a challenging position. And now you work as a grief recovery method specialist and an infinite possibilities trainer. Want to go into that one too. So tell us, Dawn, let's start with you, and what first inspired you to walk this path of emotional healing and self-care for women. Tell us a little bit about who Dawn is.
Well, I've been a nurse for 30 years, but I left nursing in 2022 after the pandemic. And what I was noticing with a lot of my patients is they were developing physical health issues after some type of a trauma or a loss, and experiencing that deep emotional pain. And as so many of us know, stress and emotional pain can lead to illness. It's like when we just keep overcommitting and going, and trying to keep moving forward without practicing self-care, taking that break, many of us end up in bed sick, and that's the universe telling us it's time to pause. It's time for you to take care of yourself. So, in my nursing career, I was feeling like a little frustrated because I knew that there were other things that I could offer my patients, but I couldn't do it in the setting I was working. And so I thought, I have a gift to help people in a different way, to help them heal emotionally, which will then help them heal physically. And so I decided that it was time for me to leave my nursing profession and go out on my own to help people in this different way. One of the other pressing factors for me was I had done a lot of this emotional healing myself. After growing up and some of the experiences I had gone through, I was carrying a lot of emotional baggage that was keeping me stuck, keeping me small, not allowing me to have the relationships that I desired. And it wasn't until I stepped into working on myself, the personal growth work, the healing, things that had hurt my heart, that I was able to feel like I was thriving versus just surviving. And I started experiencing joy where I'm not sure that I'd ever experienced it to the same extent
Mm.
in the past that I can now. So those are kind of the reasons I ended up where I am today.
Mm. And thank you so much for sharing that, because
Mhm.
it's such a big thing, especially to experience joy. I know, for a lot of people, for me personally, I believe that to experience joy is our purpose in life, to be able to overcome all the challenges and just to really experience joy, a joyful life. Really. But so many people have kind of forgotten that.
Mhm.
What
I
does
agree.
what does it feel like to be joyful? And I'd love to pick up on a couple of things that you've said. So much to talk about. We'll have to come back for another one, or another conversation. But I'd love to know, for your experience, talking about overwhelmment and overcommitting and
Mhm.
burning out, especially for women. But why do you think self-care is so misunderstood or even stigmatized, especially among women? We're very good at caring for others, very good,
Right.
but we don't care for ourselves. Why do you think that really is?
I think many of us are taught that self-care is selfish. As women, we're moms. Many of us have careers these days, and we're taught to put others before ourselves, take care of the family, whether it's the family inside your house, the extended family that goes out to friends, anybody in need. And, we're built up as these strong individuals, which we are, but that doesn't allow us to just pause and always set those boundaries so that we can take care of ourselves because we've come to this belief that we have to just power through. We have to be strong. And that, taking a day to go do something for myself, go for a hike, take a nap, go have my nails done, something like that that helps me care for myself and get recentered is selfish. And so we need to change the culture. We need to realize that every one of us, men and women, we need to be able to pause. We need to be able to say, I need to be good with myself. And before I can help others, I need to help me. I need to fill my cup up because I can't pour from an empty cup. And if I'm not good, if I'm not caring for me, I don't have anything to give to you.
Exactly. Thank you. I'm just writing all this down, taking lots of notes. So thank you for that. And it's so very true. I mean, we cannot keep on giving, 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 giving
Mhm.
unless we stop. And as you said, to fill our own cup up. Right?
Yeah,
Even teapots run out if they don't keep being refilled. Cups will run
mhm.
out if we don't keep filling them. So absolutely
Right.
things like that. And the other question that I have, you mentioned about, what hurts. your heart.
Mhm.
Why do so many women again ignore our emotional pain when we suppress so much in our heart
Mhm.
and it impacts our life so much, right? Every aspect of our life.
Mhm.
Why do we ignore that pain?
My belief is that we just don't have the tools. We haven't been taught the tools of how to navigate emotional pain. It's interesting because as little children, most of us are taught physical first aid.
Yes,
Like if you fall and you skin your knee, you need to go clean it and apply a band-aid, all those things. But most of us are not taught emotional first aid. And when something happens when we're little, you come home and say, oh, well, my friend wasn't nice to me at school. My friend called me a name. Oftentimes it's, oh, I'm sorry, honey, but here, I'll give you an ice cream or a cookie and you'll feel better. And while that helps us feel better temporarily, that dismisses and minimizes the emotions that we've experienced. So when we have those experiences at a young age, we learn that we need to be strong. We learn oftentimes that, if we're going to have feelings about something, that we need to go do it alone because we see other people doing that. A great example is, the family will lose maybe a grandparent, and someone will say to us as a little child, well, you need to, go take your tears to your room. You don't want to make your parents feel worse. Well, the fact of the matter is, you can't make your parents feel more sad than they already feel with your emotions. But we don't feel comfortable being honest with our emotions because
yes,
we've learned these things. We've learned that as women, we need to just keep pushing forward and, you know, trying to keep our emotions in check versus allowing ourselves to navigate those emotions, to feel those emotions so we can move forward and experience joy again. So we keep pushing them down, and it's like that tea kettle with a cork in it. A tea kettle with a cork in it eventually is going to explode because it can't allow any pressure out. And so most of us are only one or two more painful events away from that explosion because we need to release some pressure, and we've kept all these things pushed down in our heart that have caused us pain because we haven't known how to navigate through them.
absolutely. And it happens so many times. You see it in a lot of people, especially women. And I love it how, you put a cork in it and eventually it's going to explode because of the
Mm-hmm.
pressure that is building up. And we don't know how to regulate that pressure. We don't know how to deal with that, all those emotions. And in your experience, Dawn, what are some common signs, some warning signs that a woman is either emotionally depleted
Mm-hmm.
or maybe about to explode, even if she seems to be still functioning and says that
Mm-hmm.
she's fine, but yet on the inside, she's not. So, what are some warning signs that we can all be aware of?
So, one thing I want to touch on before I answer that question is fine. We all use that. Oh, I'm fine.
Oh,
And fine for me stands for feelings inside not expressed.
love that.
Because most of the time when people say they're fine, I mean, they're not saying they're okay. They're not saying they're good. I'm fine. So, usually someone is not expressing something that's going on inside of them because they don't feel safe, because they're just not comfortable talking about their feelings. And so, things that I notice with women is they're just, they just look overwhelmed. They start um, feeling physically ill, coming up with, colds or flus or new diagnosis of things. They're running frantically from one thing to another. I'll also see a lot of anxiety. have seen that in a lot of my patients. So much anxiety because they just don't know how to navigate everything in their life,
Mm.
all the to-dos and their emotions, the things that they've experienced and they continue to experience. A big one in society is addictions, whether it's addictions to alcohol, drugs, social media, shopping, eating, all of those I see quite frequently because it's a way that we numb ourselves. So when I see those things, I'm always curious, what's going on because the addiction isn't the issue, it's the emotions. It's the emotional pain that we're wanting to hide, that we're wanting to numb and cover up because we don't know how to navigate the emotions. So those are some of the things that I notice with a lot of people that I work with.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. And I love your definition of fine. Feelings inside not expressed. I truly,
Mhm.
it's the first time that I've heard that, and it's so very, very powerful. When someone just says, "Oh, I'm fine," it's because they're not acknowledging their feelings. They're not allowing
Correct.
the feelings to be expressed. And that is especially in the case, I think, with grief, because you work
Mhm.
a lot with grief as well. So what role does grief, especially, the unacknowledged grief, because we can grieve about so many different things.
We can. And I used to believe that grief, before I became a certified grief recovery method specialist, I thought the grief was just related to death, but
Yeah.
it's not. Grief is related to any change or transition in our life that feels uncomfortable. So
Yes.
whether that's moving, changing jobs, our kids growing up, our kids launching, or they're just going to preschool, anything like that, even happy things can be grieving events, such as having a baby. You can be really happy, and also at the same time, your life is completely changing. It can feel overwhelming. So, sure, grief is caused from so many things, and I just think that we don't know how to navigate that. We haven't been taught grief is usually that elephant in the room. I
Yes.
speak with a lot of women that have lost children to miscarriage, or they've been stillborn, or they haven't been able to conceive, that have been grieving alone for many, many years because they didn't feel safe talking to anyone. And that always breaks my heart because that is one that, like I said, a lot of women suffer from that and they don't feel like that they have an outlet or that they can talk about it because it's always minimized. It's like, well, you can have another child. So those type of unhelpful comments really make women shut down. They don't want to talk about it and they don't know how to navigate through their feelings.
Yeah. And again, it's so true. We can grieve about such little things in our
Mhm.
life, any type of, as you said, change. We can grieve about that, but we don't acknowledge it because, especially the little ones,
Mhm.
and even the greater ones when we grieve, loss of marriages, loss of jobs, loss of, people that we love. But
Yeah,
yet, yeah, but do we actually really allow ourselves to grieve?
exactly. I mean, when I signed up to go through this training, I thought, well, I don't have a lot of grief in my life, and within about an hour of the training, I realized I'd experienced an immense amount of grief. And it started in childhood. I grew up with an alcoholic father, an alcoholic stepfather. Then I entered into my first romantic relationship, which was verbally and physically abusive. And then I ended up divorced from my first husband. And so all of that just accumulated. And I realized why my life didn't feel as joyful as I had hoped for. It was because I'd had all this pain that I'd been carrying for years and I hadn't known how to heal it. I hadn't known how to navigate through it and be able to actually put words to those emotions.
Yeah.
They just all been inside of me, the anger and the sadness. And it had kept me from really truly being who I was meant to be.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that so very much, because it's true. Grief, when we suppress the grief, it keeps us from who we are meant to be. And you've
Mhm.
experienced it. And I'd love to go more, Dawn, into your actual grief recovery method. Tell us about that. What does it actually mean? Can you walk us through what it looks like in practice?
Yeah, so over 40 years ago, the grief recovery method was created by John James, and he was a Vietnam veteran who lost his son, who was only 3 days old. And so he was trying to figure out a way to help his heart that hurt. And he read a lot of books and he, listened to a lot of different people, but he couldn't figure out how to help himself. And so he thought, well, I'm a smart man. I'm going to develop a tool that I can use to help me feel better. And so he did. And everybody, family and friends started noticing a big difference in his life. And so then they wanted to know what he did, obviously, because he felt better. So they wanted to feel better. And so then he decided to write a book and he developed a certification program so that people all over the world could use this tool, which is now an evidence-based tool that we have specialists in every country, pretty much around the world. And it helps individuals. We take them through foundational work, which is looking at their own life and looking at myths and beliefs that maybe they learned early in childhood that have kept them stuck. And then we take a look at their whole life as far as what different losses have you suffered? Because most of us don't realize how much loss we've experienced. And I always remind people it's not what happens to us that causes the pain, it's our emotions about it. So you and I might have the same loss and it might not really affect me, but you might feel emotional pain from the loss because we're unique and every relationship is unique. And so one experience for one person might be something that they really highlight, like this really has affected my life, or somebody else, they just kind of gloss over it. So we look at that in our life, and then we look at specific relationships that are really um, keeping us stuck. And, I often say we need to look back at our family, our home, because we get so much from our parents and they do the best that they can with what they're given. But we take in a lot of what we learn from
Yes.
our home. And so we need to look back at those relationships and how they're affecting us today. And so we have these tools that we use and we take people through to help them navigate whatever grief they're experiencing, whether it's something that just happened or something that happened in the past, something that's ongoing. And the nice thing about it is, unlike counseling where you just keep going back if you have an issue arise, I work with somebody for about 7 weeks and they have this tool that they can use for the rest of their life with any event that happens. Now, that doesn't mean they can't come back and talk to me. They always can, but it's nice to be able to offer someone this set of tools that they can feel really empowered to use on their own.
Thank you. Thank you so
Mhm.
very, very much. Now, for everyone who is listening or watching, do click on the links below and reach out to Dawn, because all those tools. Now, do you have those tools available on your website, or some of them?
So I have some free resources on my website that talk
Mm.
about some of the things that we've talked about today. And then I'd love to jump on calls with people and just find out what's going on in their life and provide support. And if they're interested, working with them through the program. But yes, I have lots of resources on my website.
So, like I said, for everyone who's watching, click on those links below and reach out to Dawn, because you never know how just a conversation can help. It's a simple
Yeah.
conversation. So thank you for sharing that, Dawn. And I'd love to go into also infinite possibilities, because you're a trainer in infinite possibilities, or you've done the training, I should say.
Mhm.
Tell us what that means for the people out there who's watching who've never heard of it.
So Infinite Possibilities is through Mike Dooley, and it's really about realizing that we create our life. We can manifest the things that we desire. There's unlimited possibilities. We get stuck sometimes and in our own way thinking, well, my life will never change. I can never have that. But it's taking those little steps forward. It's looking at those beliefs that are keeping us stuck. I love affirmations. I use them all the time. In fact, one of my books that I've written has an affirmation for each chapter
Mhm.
because I think that, programming our mind with those positive thoughts creates change in our life, positive change. And so having a mindset of there is infinite possibilities in this universe and for my life helps guide us to the things that we dream about and that we want versus keeping us stuck in what we don't want.
Mhm. How has that helped you in your life, having that awareness or that mindset that there are infinite possibilities? Would you like to share?
Yeah, I think for many years before I'd done a lot of my own healing, I felt like a victim. And I think that happens to many of us in our life. We have these periods where I've been the victim of this. And when I started to do the healing, I realized that no, I'm not a victim. Like all these things have actually been a gift in my life. They've helped me become who I am today. And that's how I view my life at this point. Like when something happens that doesn't feel comfortable, I ask myself, well, what is this here to teach me?
Mm.
Because I understand now that the universe is helping me, leading me, navigating me to where I want to go or to where I'm meant to be. And that's part of that infinite possibilities is believing that I can have what I want in my life and continuing to take those steps forward, feeling empowered, believing in myself that it can all manifest and we can create the life that we dream about. But we have to be willing to believe that, believe in ourselves. And I think it's really hard sometimes for individuals to believe in who they are and what they can create and manifest because of the stuff that is keeping them stuck, all that emotional pain and the things that have happened in the past.
Mm. Absolutely. Totally agree with you. So thank you so much. And as you
Mhm.
said, there are infinite possibilities, and you're able to help people to really connect and to see that no matter what we're going through in our life, all the challenges, there are other possibilities that we can overcome, help
Yes,
overcome them, and to to change our life.
exactly.
Mm. Now, as well as being a trainer and helping women to overcome trauma and grief and everything else, you are also an author. And I forgot to ask you, do you have your books with you?
I do, but I'd have to get up to get them.
Would you like to? That's up to you. We'll cut
I
this
can. Okay, hold on.
out. We just have to try and be in exactly the same position.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot to ask you beforehand.
That's okay. Sometimes I have them and sometimes I don't.
It's okay. All right, let me do that one again. We just have to try and see what we were doing. So, Dawn, thank you for that. And as well as being, helping people with their infinite possibilities and grief and overcoming trauma and everything else, you are also an author. So tell us a little bit about your books.
So my first book is Journey to Peace and Healing.
Love it.
And this one I wrote, it's bits of my story,
Uh-huh.
how I went from surviving to actually thriving. So I talk about my healing journey, and each chapter is a little bit of a tool or some way to help people, move, shift in the direction that they want to shift in, a positive direction. And so I have reflective questions in each chapter with journaling space. So it allows people to really dive deep. Like, I
Yes.
want people to not just read my words, but to apply them to their own life and look at those spots that maybe they're feeling stuck and that they want to shift. So that was my first book. My second book is Journey to Self-Discovery. This is 100 Days of Soulful Reflections. And the reason I wrote this book is because when I was going through divorce at the age of 30, I was devastated, heartbroken. I was having a hard time just making it through each day. And the one thing that helped me was having a daily reader, just like a page of really insightful wisdom that I could read, something that I could focus on throughout the day. Because reading a chapter, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't concentrate. And that's, when you're grieving, that's one of the things. It's really difficult to concentrate. And so I decided to write this book. And I did it over 100 days. Every morning I sat down and I wrote a short little piece, 1 to 2 pages, and then I put an affirmation at the bottom. So someone could carry that affirmation with them throughout the day and say it to themselves or say it out loud in front of a mirror and just have a little inspiration when they feel like they're struggling or just need a little pick me up to help them get through the day.
Mm. How nice. Thank you for sharing that. Would you like to share one of your readings?
Oh, sure.
Writings. Would you like to share one of your writings?
Sure. I'm trying to find something. How about stepping through fear? Do you often wonder what you would be doing differently in life if your fears didn't keep creeping up? Fear can be absolutely debilitating. It can convince you that your dreams, aspirations, and goals are unattainable. Fear can leave you questioning every part of yourself, your relationships, your career, and your life. Fear can lead you to walk away from amazing opportunities in life. The worst thing is that fear tends to keep all of us small. Instead of allowing fear to rule your life and lose faith in yourself, you can choose to stand tall and push beyond it. No, it's not easy to ignore your fears, especially when they've been with you a very long time and are perhaps deeply ingrained in how you navigate the world. However, it is possible to take small steps to move beyond your fear so that you can create the life you choose instead of what you may be settling for currently. Sometimes choosing to step through one small fear at a time will give you enough courage to make the changes you desire in your life. What fears might be limiting your life today? And the affirmation for today: I choose to look beyond my fears, step through them, and move toward that which I desire.
Love that. Thank you so very, very much. And it's so true. Fear is another emotion that holds people back so much and things. So thank you for that. Now, your books are available on your website, which we will be putting all the links below. And I'm
Yes,
assuming they're also available on Amazon and everywhere else that where all
yes,
books
they
are.
are. Yes,
Thank
definitely.
you so much for sharing that, Dawn. And I'd love
Yes.
to go back. You mentioned one other thing that I really want to talk about before we get back into emotional first aid, because I've got lots of things to discuss with that. But you mentioned from surviving to thriving, how to go from surviving to thriving. Because again, a lot of women, and myself included, have been through periods of my life
Mm.
where I've just felt like I've survived, that I'm surviving. Just going, it's a day by day thing. You're in that mental mode that you just get up every morning and do the same thing, and you just feel like you're surviving. As you mentioned before, there's no joy.
Right.
What does it really look like? What does that transformation really look like as an experience? Or, what are some breakthroughs that you've had or your clients have had when they've been able to go from surviving to now thriving in life.
Mhm. Well, one story that I can share is that I've seen people, they come to me and they're full of
Yes.
anxiety and depression. They're having a hard time navigating throughout the day. They, might have children. They're just taking care of the children. They're home, but it's just they're overwhelmed constantly and anxious and fearful of what's going to happen, what isn't going to happen, because they have this lifetime of what we would call bad things happening or painful things. And so they're trying to survive. They're going through each day, but they don't feel that joy. And, I've worked with women who, at the end of our sessions together, like I notice a difference in their face. Like I can tell when they jump on Zoom with me, they're smiling, they look lighter, they look more joyful. They can talk about something in their life that is a happy event versus just talking about, the hard things. So it's really interesting watching it. And it usually happens about the third or fourth week I'm working with somebody. It's like they've taken a heavy load off their back.
Mhm.
Like they've been carrying chains around and they're removing them. And it's just they can focus on the things they're grateful for. So I've experienced that in my own life. I see it with my clients. It's just an amazing journey to watch. And I love it because I don't like people living a life less than what they're meant to live.
Yes.
Like you, I believe we're all here to experience joy.
Mhm.
And yes, we all go through painful times, but I just want people to have the types of tools that will help them navigate those times effectively versus unhealthy coping mechanisms so that they can experience joy and they can experience healthy relationships. Because the truth is that all the grief and pain that we hold affects every aspect of our lives.
It certainly does, doesn't it? So
Yeah,
much so that we don't even know about it. We have
right.
no idea that, as you said, we could be grieving about things that happened in our childhood
Hmm.
that we haven't acknowledged or remembered and we've suppressed, and it's affecting us now. So,
Yeah, triggers are a good indication. When we're triggered by something that doesn't really make sense, like, why did this upset me so much? Well, I usually ask people, think about another time that this situation or something similar happened to you. Was it in your childhood? It's usually something that is unhealed.
yes, yes, because the triggers happen, they come up, we get triggered because it's there to show us that something does need healing. So, yeah,
Right.
totally. And that's a wonderful reset or reframing on, when we do get triggered, which we all do, we look at
Hmm.
what's in it, inside that trigger, the message of what needs to be healed.
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm learning so much. And again, please do come back. Now, let's talk more about emotional first aid because that's
Okay.
what we're here to. And for anyone who's listening, they're running on empty, what, let me go back. Let me go back. Okay. So let's talk more about emotional first aid. That's what
Hmm.
we're here for because emotional first aid is much more than just, journaling or meditating. So if there's a woman who's listening and she's really running on empty,
Hmm.
what is something that they can do? What's the first thing they can do to really help herself with emotional first aid today?
One of the first things is to pause because when we get overwhelmed, we tend to just keep going because we don't know what else to do. So we keep going. So it's to pause and be emotionally honest. Even if you can't be emotionally honest today with somebody that feels safe, somebody in your tribe that can just listen without any judgment, and someone who unconditionally loves you, be honest with yourself. Like, sit down. What is going on? Like, what is coming up in me? What emotions am I experiencing? Are there things that I know that are hurting my heart right now? You know, oh, yeah, that's right. My husband and I got in a fight last week, or one of my kids is struggling at school, or, I have a family member who's ill, or whatever it is, but be emotionally honest. So many times we just try and shove down our emotions, shove down that pain, but it all lurks in the shadows and it's just waiting to creep out underneath the door. And as long as we ignore it, it will just continue, persisting and knocking at the door, waiting to come out and causing havoc in our life. So just being willing to pause and be emotionally honest with ourselves. And, people who are struggling want to be heard, the majority of them. But oftentimes they isolate themselves because when they've tried to express how they're feeling, they're met with advice or criticism or comparison instead of just someone saying, I'm here and I would love to just hold space for you. I love you unconditionally. I want you to just talk about how you're feeling. And that's what we need, all of us, women and men, is just people who are willing to hold that space and encourage us to talk about our emotions, because that's really the first step in healing.
It is, isn't it? Just
Yeah,
to allow those emotions out by just talking about them.
right. But so many of us are afraid because it's like, okay, well, this experience was so hard the first time I went through it. I don't want to relive it by talking about it. But the thing is we need to talk about it because we need to express those emotions so we can move through the emotions versus just stuffing them down, which leads to other issues in our life.
Absolutely, totally agree with you. Lots of gems, so thank you. Thank you so much. And one of the things is, like I said, pausing, allowing yourself to feel the emotions and also talking about them with others because it releases it. What is there a difference between talking about them and writing them out?
You can do either one. I think they're both helpful. However, grievers often feel unheard for multiple reasons, like we've talked about. And so there is a huge healing component of that happens when we are able to express how we're feeling and someone listens.
Yes.
And it's really interesting because most of us are taught that we need to respond when someone talks to us. And we don't like seeing those we love hurting. And so we want to say something because we want to try and fix this problem for them. When in truth, we can't fix it. We can be there and we can witness and we can hold space. And that's the most helpful thing that we can do. And so it's really interesting when people start practicing this, the being a listening heart and showing up to just listen versus respond. It's a little uncomfortable when you first start doing it because you think to yourself, well, shouldn't I be saying something? Shouldn't I be offering advice? Because that's what is so common for us these days.
Yeah, and I love that. Be a listening heart. Just listen.
Yeah.
That's all. Without putting our own thoughts in, our own opinions, but to hold space for someone else and listen and allow them to share. And as you said, it's so very, very healing.
And it takes the pressure off too.
Does take so much pressure.
Because so often we don't know what to say, so we don't say anything.
Yes.
Or we don't show up because we don't know what to say. Someone has just lost their child or they've lost their parent or their dog, and we don't know what to say. But if we just show up and say, I can't imagine what you've been going through. I'm so sorry. And I'm here for any support. I'm here to listen. How can I support you? That's one of the most loving things that we can do.
Certainly is. Thank you for sharing that one as well.
Hmm.
I'd love to know again, in your experience, what does, because we're talking about, emotional first aid.
Hmm.
We all live busy lives in today's world, no matter where you are, I do believe, unless you don't have any tech, unless you live in places that, no tech, no nothing, because I believe it's the tech and AI and computers that have made our lives so crazy. It's meant to help us, which it does,
Hmm.
but then we're putting more and more into it because we've got
Yes.
all this time. So, what's a realistic self-care plan you can suggest? What does it look like for someone who, like us, who lives in this world of technology and jobs and, being a mother and everything else that has a thing, I don't have time to care for
Hmm.
myself. What's a really,
So I will tell people 10 minutes. If you can't make time, you can make 10 minutes. You can, worst case scenario, you go into the bathroom and close yourself in the bathroom, away from the family, away from the kids, the dog, the cat, and just breathe. I've tried over the years to do these things where I get up early and I journal and I light the candle and I meditate and all that, and that doesn't work for me. It does for some people, but I like individuals to realize that they don't have to follow a certain prescription of how to care for themselves. Just do something. Um, take 10 minutes to step outside, put your feet on the earth, breathe, go out into nature. Anything you can do to just remove yourself from the current situation and to just breathe and recenter. Because we can get really spun up in whatever's going on around us, whether it's family or work or other situations. And if we just take a few minutes to step away and to remember who we are, we can step back into that with a different set of eyes.
how does that help you on a realistic basis?
How does it help me to do
Yes,
that?
yes.
Um, I notice if I don't take the time to do that,
Yes.
then I get really frazzled. And when I do take the time, I feel that sense of calm inside. And I can remind myself to, throughout the day, just keep breathing and, stay centered. And I can show up with an open, loving heart versus feeling overwhelmed and stressed.
Mm.
So while there's so many things we can do, like I talked about, meditation, journaling, exercise, spending time in nature, you know, I don't like to tell people, well, you have to reserve an hour. I mean, yes, I would love if everybody could do that, but some days we just don't have that time. And if someone feels like they need to set aside a certain amount of time, many times they just won't do it. And so, I mean, there has been times when I was raising my son when he was little. There were times where I just went in the bathroom for 10 minutes and sat on the floor because I just needed
Oh,
space. Yeah.
that time and that space. And yes,
Hmm.
people say that I'm too busy, I don't have anywhere to go or to do meditation or just breathing or for yourself. And I quite often say, well, we all have to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, it might not be the best place, but it's probably one of the only places that most people, not all, but most people do not get interrupted. Most
Right. And
people.
you can be alone. And one other thing that I do actually every single day is I always have some background sound going on. Just some really instrumental, peaceful, calm music. My animals love it. I love it. It really helps the household just feel grounded and calm.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that again. Thank you.
Hmm.
And before we wrap up, Dawn, I've got a couple more quick questions, but I'd love to know if you could see yourself now, a younger self, your younger self who is going through all the trauma of what you said about growing up with your father and your stepfather being an alcoholic and your marriage and everything else, what would you tell her now about honoring your emotional needs?
I would tell her to remember that regardless of what's going around you, you are whole, and to continue to breathe and remember the huge light you are in this world and that you are continuing to become, and that this chapter of your life is not the whole story. Because I think I did it, and I think a lot of other people do it. We see something that happens in our life and we think that that is the whole book, and it's not. It's a chapter. And we haven't seen the rest of our story yet. And it can be a beautiful story and still contain some really difficult chapters.
I love that, and it's so true. It can be a challenging life, a difficult story, as you say, but still look at the beauty in everything. Just
Right.
the beauty in all the things that we've experienced. Thank you. Now, we're talking about emotional first aid. Do you have an emotional first aid kit? And what's inside it? What's a must have for people to have for an emotional first aid kit?
Emotional first aid kit. And what? So I have a free resource on my website that's emotional first aid for the overcommitted woman.
Nice.
And you know, I think it's different for everyone, that emotional first aid kit. I mean, I don't view it so much as specific things. I view it as specific actions that we can take. The pausing, the breathe, the assessing where we are, being honest with ourselves, and taking that break away from whatever it is that's really has us overwhelmed and overcommitted. I have little tools like my books, my spiritual books that I read, essential oils, candles, music, all those things really help me with my emotional first aid. But everyone has their own special things that help them. And crystals, I love crystals.
They do. And like I said, whatever it is that kind of lights up your life.
Exactly. That brings you that peace, that calm, that comfort. Yeah.
It is. Thank you for sharing that. And what is lighting up your life right now?
What's lighting up my life right now?
Yeah, if you'd like to share.
Um, Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of good things happen in my life recently. I'm super excited about, just some of the opportunities I've had to speak with people all over the world about my work and grief and joy. And I have an amazing partner. We just got engaged, so I'm excited about that. So, and spending the holidays with my family coming up, over the years, I've become very grateful for all the connections in my life and how, we just all touch each other's lives in different ways. And I feel like we're messengers for one another. We help walk each other through our journeys.
We do. We
So,
do, especially when we allow it. Thank you
yeah.
so very, very much. And, again, for anyone who is listening, if you'd like Dawn to help walk or to walk with you through your journey, click on the links below and reach out to Dawn. And as we wrap up our conversation today, Dawn, on emotional first aid, what's the final message that you would like to leave everyone with?
A couple things, then we kind of discussed them already, is that to remember, like, first of all, you aren't alone. And, your life so far is not your whole story. And we can heal and we can thrive again. We can find that joy. We just need to be willing to step in and look at some of the things that are causing us the pain in our heart. But I know that each and every one of you can thrive and feel joy maybe again, or maybe for the first time. And so please have some hope and, reach out, whether it's to me or someone else that can be that listening heart for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Pathways to Wellbeing. It's been an honor to chat with you today. I've taken lots of notes. I will certainly be checking out your website, and I love your journey to self-discovery. Love the idea of 100 days of soulful reflections. I'm certainly going to be looking at that. And just again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Sophia, and sharing this wonderful conversation today.
Thank you. Dawn Jackson's final reflections are a heartfelt reminder. We can heal and we can thrive again. We can find that joy. We just need to be willing to step in and look at some of the things that are causing us the pain in our heart. If you would like to explore Dawn's work further, be sure to connect with her around emotional wellness coaching, breath work, or even healing sessions. Check out her website, her books, and all of the free resources on offer. Find all the details in the links below. At Sacred You, we are committed to creating a space where women from all over the world can support, uplift, and empower each other. Visit our website to explore upcoming workshops, events, and community offerings. Check us out at www.sacredu, that's the letter U.love. As always, please subscribe to our podcast, share it with a friend, or leave us a review. We would love to hear your thoughts. As Dawn shared, emotional first aid is not a luxury. It is a necessity. The journey to emotional balance isn't about overnight change. It's about small, intentional steps. Until next time, stay grounded, stay inspired, stay connected, and keep walking your pathway to well-being. From our heart to yours, thank you.